Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. This evening's show, getting close to Halloween, getting close to All Hallows Eve. And so as I like to do at least once this time of year, I've got all the candles going, I've got the skulls out, I've got anything else somewhat related to getting in the spirit of Halloween. So last year I did one artist, and this year I'm kind of doing that same artist, but I am going to be covering the legendary Mercyful Fate, King Diamond and Company. King Diamond, Hank Sherman, the mainstays. Also, Michael Denner was one of the cornerstone people in the band for many years. And so real quickly, before they have 7 studio albums, very tough to rank, but before I get to that, I'll just do a quick brief history lesson on the origins of this band out of Copenhagen, Denmark. So going all the way back to the late 70s, you've got Hank Sherman and Michael Denner, guitar tandem, and they're in a band called Brats, which is kind of a punk band, although it just sounds like kind of like a punk, hard rock, metal kind of band, and they release an album in 1980 called 1980. And then after that's released, Michael Denner, one of the bass player vocalists, these guys leave, and they bring in this guy named King Diamond from a band called Black Rose, which was playing sort of like a deep purple hard rock kind of thing. So they bring him in on vocals, and they bring in Timmy Hansen on bass. And they do one demo in early 1981. Well, Michael Denner left to form a band called Danger Zone, which was a heavy metal band. And he asked the guys from Brat to help him with the music he was doing to do a demo. So they helped him with the demo also in 1981. And that turned out pretty well, to the point where they just decided to join forces and become a band. So at that point, they rebrand as Mercyful Fate, and King Diamond puts on the classic, I don't know if you can see it, but the classic face paint, the classic makeup. And they changed the themes of their songs to more of the occult, satanic, occult, horror, things like that. And in 1982, they also released an EP in a demo in 1981. So Brats released a demo in early 81. Then as Danger Zone, they released a demo also in 81. And then by the end of 81, Mercyful Fate is formed and released a demo as well. So they were very busy getting things organized in 1981. Then in 1982, and I'll put a picture up also in case it's too dark to see this, they released an EP, usually called the Mercyful Fate EP, nicknamed Nuns Have No Fun for one of the songs, but this is their 4-song official introduction to the scene. And already you've got Corpse Without Soul is classic, Doomed by the Living Dead, Nuns Have No Fun, Devil Eyes, but already you've got classic, awesome material right here on the opening EP from 82. And so from there, they get signed to Roadrunner Records, release 2 albums there, and then Hank Sherman decides he wants to pursue a different style of music. So he goes and forms a hair metal band called Fate that plays more of that style, AOR, melodic, glam rock type of thing. And obviously King Diamond wanted to continue with the direction Mercyful Fate was going in, so he continued on as King Diamond, as the King Diamond Band, and they proceeded to release 5 classic albums on the Roadrunner label between, I guess, like 86 and 90. And he brought Michael Denner and Timmy Hansen with him. So 3/5 of the original King Diamond band were Mercyful Fate. Kim Ruz was the original drummer, very good drummer, but it seems that his professional career ended after those first 2 Mercyful Fate albums. So King Diamond became kind of a big deal. Certainly was a big deal in my world. I've never heard those Fate albums, and I don't think I necessarily need to, but so King Diamond continued on in the vein of Mercyful Fate, but his storylines became more of that haunted mansion, kind of the good ghostly stories. entails. And then in 1992, Merciful Fate had a reunion. They reunited at that point with Hank Sherman, Michael Denner, Timmy Hansen, obviously King Diamond, and ever since they've had different drummers. And they did 5 albums between 1993 and 99, and their last album to date was in 99, so soon it will be 2022. I understand that they have an album in the works or possibly completed at this point, but we probably won't see it until next year at the earliest. So it's been 22 going on 23 years since they've released new material, but the band is still going. So there you go. So that's a quick history lesson. I've got notes here, but man, with the darkness and the shades on, it's pretty tough to see everything. Oh, one other thing. A lot of people consider these guys part of the first wave of black metal, along with like Bathory and Venom. I get the Bathory comparison. I guess Venom had the imagery with. In 81 they had Welcome to Hell, in 82 they had the album Black Metal, and they were a bit crazy, but I think that they were still rooted in this new wave of British heavy metal thing that was going on. And also, I feel like Merciful Fate, even though they're not British, they fit into this new wave of British heavy metal thing as well. I feel like their sound, if you listen to Judas Priest's Sad Wings of Destiny, I feel like Merciful Fate is trying to just take the ideas of that album and take it to the next level. And you also definitely hear like the twin guitar Iron Maiden thing going on, or like even like Angel Witch. So there's definitely a new wave of British heavy metal influence on their sound, along with that Judas Priest. But I hear a lot of Judas Priest with a bit of Iron Maiden in there. But obviously Merciful Fate were far heavier and more sophisticated than most of those bands, and certainly their imagery was completely over the top, and King Diamond really sent it over the top with his ability as a frontman and to tell quite a dark story. But there you go. So we'll get into it. 7 albums to rank. Agonizing trying to rank these because they don't have any weak albums. Everything is really good and great. And so I basically had a 3-way tie for number 1 and a 4-way tie for number 2. So don't put too much stock in this ranking. Like I said, the top 3 were 1s and the bottom 4 were 2s. And that's pretty much how I look at this. And so I will try and do my best to get this ranking as close to as I can here. But so we'll just get started. Coming in at number 7, and by no means a bad album at all. And I don't know if you can see this, so I might be putting the pictures up to go along with this. But this would be their 4th album from 1994. I have Time. Let's get the skull there. This is the 2nd album after the reunion, and it sounds aesthetically, it sounds a lot like the one that came out the year before. This one is good too. Nightmare Be Thy Name, Witch's Dance. The Mad Arab is probably the most memorable track on here. The Afterlife. Castillo del Muertes to end it is the long song here. I enjoy this album. I don't know if it has any like top 10 classics for me, and maybe that's why I'm putting it 7th. But it's not that I'm putting it 7th. It's just when I ranked these, this one just happened to find its way to the bottom because I was moving others up. But there's nothing wrong with this. I think the other thing I try to justify this as number 7 is because I think it's not too terribly different from the album that came before it or the album that came after it. And maybe it's not quite as immediate as the other ones. Like a lot of the other ones, there are just songs in there that you're just like, wow, what an incredible song that is. Whereas with this one, I don't necessarily get that same impression. But it is a really good album and tough to rank where I ranked it. So there you go, coming in at number 7. Got Time. Also, Snowy Shaw on drums here. So you've got Timmy Hansen is now out of the band. So you've got Charlie D'Angelo on bass. He would be the bass player from here through the 90s. And Snowy Shaw is doing drums here, but you still have Sherman and Denner on guitars, and you still have King Diamond, so it's still classic Merciful Fate. So there you go. At number 7, I've got Time. Okay. Number 6. Tough to rank this one anywhere, really, but I've got their final album to date from 99. I've got 9. This is back to the occult imagery. At this point, Michael Denner has been has left the band, and so you've got Mike Weed on second guitar. He's an excellent guitar player. He's coming in from Sweden. You've got, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, the drummer Bjarne Holm is your drummer here. You've still got Charlie D'Angelo on bass, but you still have you've still got Hank Sherman and King Diamond running the show here. So you kind of need at least those two guys in order to keep Merciful Fate going. And you've got that here. This is by far their heaviest album. This is their fastest, heaviest, nearly thrashy. And so you got 10 songs, 41 minutes. It's one of their shortest albums because the songs just fly by. But Last Rites, Soul My Soul, 9. What was the other one that was track? The second track. But all of these are just barn burners, and I love this. I know a lot of people rank this one a little bit lower because it's not classic and it doesn't have Michael Denner on the second guitar. But I think Mike Weed is an excellent guitarist, and these songs are for the most part still written by Diamond and Sherman. So I think Mike Weed wrote the final track 9, which is one of the few slow ones on here. I think there are 2 songs that are not super fast and aggressive, lots of double bass. But there you go. So you've got their final album today. Notice the logo's slightly different as well here, but still an excellent album. So at number 6, again, tough to rank this. Just like Time, 9 to me is it's a tie. It's just whatever you're in the mood for. It's a tie is basically a number 2 in their catalog. But there you go. Their final albums as of now from 1999. I've got 9. All right, coming in at number 5, and you definitely can't see this cover, so I'll definitely be putting an image up, but from 98, you've got Dead Again. This is the first one with Mike Weed, so this is the first Merciful Fate album to not feature Michael Denner as one of the guitar players. So this is the same lineup that would be on 9, but it's here on Dead Again. I don't know if this is a super heavy album like 9 is, but it's kind of progressive here. I mean, you got a 13, I think it's a 13-minute track, Dead Again, their longest track. They had one early in their career, but I think this one's even longer. And that's an excellent track. You've got songs like Banshee and Mandrake, and I forget the year of it, but the song Torture to open it. So you've really got some good tracks on here. Again, I don't know if it's necessarily better than 9 or Time. It's just I've got it ranked 5th because I enjoy a lot of these tracks, and I think Dead Again is a classic. Just like I think Last Rites is a classic on 9. I think Time is falling to the bottom because maybe The Mad Arab is probably a classic, but this is another good one. I guess it's a little heavier than their previous stuff. I don't think it's necessarily heavier. It sounds a little different. I think they recorded in a different studio at this point, and you have Mike Weed on guitars, so the riffs are getting a little more intricate here on these final 2 albums, maybe a little heavier. In his playing, he's more of a technical, thrashy, shredder type guy. So. But Dead Again is my pick at number 5. Okay. So coming in at number 4, the last of my number 2s, and you definitely can't see this cover either. It's kind of a plainish cover, but I have Into the Unknown from 1996. The last one with Michael Denner on guitars with Sherman and King. So this is still, you really got a classic lineup here. I think this album kind of gets a lower mark by others, but I just think that The Uninvited Guest and the title track and Cthulhu, which is the Mad Arab Part 2, and a few of the other tracks in here are just some of my favorite, especially the ones I just named are some of my favorite tracks that they've ever done. For some reason, even though this aesthetically sounds a lot like the 2 albums that came before it, it just seems to be a little more aggressive. There seems to be a lot of energy to it. And again, it has some of my favorite tracks, and just a little bit more instantly memorable, I suppose. Didn't take too long to get into this one, but and another thing, I would say that Merciful Fate had 2 eras, but they kind of had 3, because you had the early 80s era, and then you had the whole reunion when they got back together in the 90s, but you also had 3 albums with Michael Denner that sound similar, and then you have 2 at the end of the 90s with Mike Lead, which sound a little bit different. So this is part of, I guess, that middle era, if you really want to get specific with it. But again, an excellent addition to the Merciful Fate catalog. I mean, I had this at 6, 5, ultimately at 4. I had 9 at 4 and 5 as well. I had Dead Again all over the place. So these are all pretty much equally of high caliber, high quality material. As is always the case with Merciful Fate, pretty much all the time with King Diamond and his main band as well. But there you go. Coming in at number 4 from '96, the final one with Michael Denner, Into the Unknown. All right. I mean, now we're to my 3 number 1s. And my 3 and 2 could flip-flop tomorrow. And they certainly went back and forth this whole time. So my number 3 is a number 1, and it certainly was like a number 2 earlier in the week. Probably most people's number 1. Their debut from '83. Melissa. How is this number 3? I mean, it's all classic stuff. Curse of the Pharaohs. We heard Into the Coven earlier. That's my favorite on here. Evil opens it. Black Funeral, that's the short, quick one. Title track it ends with. But Satan's Fall is like 11 or 12 minutes. It's just incredible. I love that Merciful Fate has those long, epic songs, those adventurous songs. That's exactly what I like to hear in the music. So this is really creepy and dark, and it's kind of raw, but it's still got a good production. It's the kind of raw production you love, because it's the kind of raw production that you can get into, and you can feel the drums, and you can hear the guitars and feel the guitars, and King sounds great, and so it's just one of these cool underground type albums. So there you go. What else can I say? I think Hank Sherman wrote all of the music for this album, so there's no contributions from Denner or King, even though King obviously writes all the lyrics, but a lot of times musically, King writes as much of the music as Hank Sherman does, if not more. And usually when Michael Denner was in the band, he'd contribute a song here or there, 1 or 2 tracks. But on this album, it is all Hank Sherman. And frankly, I think the songs that Hank writes are my favorite songs. I've noticed that when I go, oh, that song's great, and then you see who wrote it, and you're like, okay. So the more Hank Sherman does the writing, the better, in my opinion. And by the way, on Time, Hank Sherman did the least amount of songwriting on Time. I think King Diamond pretty much wrote 3/4 of that album. But on this one, Hank's writing everything, and everything on here is a classic. If you're going to do a greatest hits, what's the Demon Bell? I mean, other than that, I think everything on here is a greatest. Everything on here is the greatest hit. So there you go. At number 3, but really it's a number 1, and it was number 2 earlier this week. I've got their debut from '83, coming out of nowhere, Melissa. All right, coming in at number 2. What can I say? I'm digging this album, Don't Break the Oath, from '84, the follow-up to Melissa. I just think that they still sound as dark. We heard The Oath to open this whole thing, and that's the big long song, 7 or 8 minutes. A Dangerous Meeting is one of my favorites. Desecration of Souls, Gypsy, Come to the Sabbath. Welcome, I think mine says, I don't know if it has the misspelling or not. It does. Welcome Princess of Hell, but it was supposed to be Welcome Princes of Hell. And there was a misspell, and I guess they just went with it all these years. But just an absolute classic album. The razor-sounding guitars on here. I think King's getting better at not only his vocals, but just his storytelling. So it's just, and Kim Ruz is an underrated drummer. I can't say that enough. I don't know what his real last name is, but I know that he loves the band Rush so much, and you can kind of hear it in his playing. He goes around the kit with those rototoms. And so they changed, but I don't know if he mispronounced the name Rush, but they just nicknamed him Kim Ruz, mainly because he was such a fan of the band Rush. But having that kind of drummer behind this kind of, metal is a great combination. So, unfortunately, this would be the last thing from them for 9 years, which seems like an eternity, but now we're going on 22, 23 years between albums. But awesome album cover, too. So, Don't Break the Oath is my number 2 for today, and it's a number 1. And so at number 1, Process of Elimination, you can hear music off of this album right now. In the Shadows from 1993. This was their reunion album, so this is the first thing they released, their third album overall. Comes out in 93. This is the lineup. You got King Diamond, Hank Sherman, Michael Benner, and Timmy Hansen. No Kim Ruz. You've got Snowy Shaw in the picture, but I think somebody named Morton Nielsen was the session drummer. And also, there's a bonus track on here, Return of the Vampire, which was something they recorded on a demo in '81. But here they re-recorded with Lars Ulrich on drums. So Lars Ulrich of Metallica fame, who was a huge Merciful Fate fan, and also from Denmark. So he agreed to re-record Return to the Vampire with the band. But this album is great. It's not Melissa or Don't Break the Oath, but I think it's incredible because there's such a great variety of songs. You open with Egypt. They used to have a video for it on Headbangers Ball. Excellent way to start. The Bell Witch might be my favorite song they ever wrote. We heard that earlier. The Old Oak we're listening to now. My other favorite song, The Legend of the Headless Rider, if we get to it coming up, that's like my third favorite song. To go with The Oath, Into the Coven and stuff from the first two. But all my favorite songs are on this album. Shadows, A Gruesome Time, which was written by Denner, and that's a good one. All my favorites on here, by the way, are written by Hank Sherman. 13 Invitations is cool, probably the best King Diamond written one on here. Room of Golden Eras is cool, instrumental, written by Michael Denner. I think I mentioned Legend of the Headless Rider. Then you finish with Is That You, Melissa? So a callback to the earlier album, and like I said, they do a re-recording of a demo song, Return of the Vampire, but with Lars Ulrich on drums. So that is pretty cool. So that is my number 1. So real quick to recap, and again, it's really 4 number 2s and 3 number 1s. But number 7, I had Time. At number 6, I've got 9. At number 5, I have Dead Again. At number 4, I've got Into the Unknown. And then at number 3, you've got Melissa, classic. Number 2, Don't Break the Oath, another absolute classic. And then my number 1 from 1993, In the Shadows. So that's ranking 7 awesome albums by a very awesome and influential band. I saw them in 1993 at Mississippi Nights touring for this album. And let's see, Cathedral, the Doom band from the UK opened, and then Flotsam and Jetsam were the middle band, and then it was Merciful Fate. They were great, and I know King Diamond I know it's just makeup, and I know we're just having fun, but man, he makes eye contact with you in the crowd, and that Mississippi Nights was not that big of a venue, and man, I think he looked at me and I got freaked out. So he's just a great frontman, just a great stage presence. Also, their influence, I'm not saying they're a thrash band, but they had such a major influence on Metallica. In fact, Metallica on the Garage Inc. album does like a Merciful Fate medley where they're covering a ton of stuff from the Melissa album and one thing from that original EP. And so I know they're huge Merciful Fate fans. In fact, I think I heard about Merciful Fate through either Metallica or just backtracking with the fact that I was a fan of King Diamond. But I know that Metallica really talked highly of Merciful Fate. Also, Kerry King, so Slayer. huge fans of Merciful Fate. Kerry King said back in the day he took a chance just based on that album cover and was glad he did. And he said that they were listening to a ton of Merciful Fate while recording Hell Awaits. And you can hear it on songs like At Dawn They Sleep and Crypts of Eternity, some of these 6-minute songs that Slayer did. Slayer doesn't really do too many of those meandering songs with a bunch of pieces and parts, but I'm sure that songs like those two in particular were probably influenced by sort of the progressive nature of Merciful Fate. Not that they're a progressive rock band, but they have a little bit of a sophistication in their sound. But what else? So the band is back together. They've been in hibernation for some time, but let's see. So Charlie D'Angelo is no longer with the band. He's in Arch Enemy, but their bass player now is none other than Joey Vera. So Joey Vera of Fate's Warning, Armored Saint, he was in the project OSI. I know him I know his work very well, but he is their bass player, I guess, for the studio album and certainly for the touring. So let me see, what else? I think that almost covers it. Oh, I know when the first Merciful Fate stuff I heard in '92, I got a cassette. It came out, and even though I had half of the stuff on it, it was a compilation called A Dangerous Meeting, and it had half of it was King Diamond stuff, but the other half was Merciful Fate stuff. So it had a couple of tracks off of the EP, 2 or 3 off of Melissa, and 2 or 3 off of Don't Break the Oath. And so that's what I knew of Merciful Fate for a while until I got In the Shadows. And it wasn't until years later that I actually went back and got the Melissa album and the Don't Break the Oath album. So for the longest time, I only knew a handful of songs from those early albums. Also, so I got the EP just for that cool artwork on the cover. But back in the day, you could get all of these songs on a compilation called In the Beginning on Roadrunner. And it had those 4 songs. It had 3 BBC session songs from Melissa tracks that sound really good. And then it had a song called Black Masses, which was an early track that they then recorded during the Melissa sessions, but didn't include on Melissa. But it's a good song, and so that compilation In the Beginning is excellent, totally worth owning. And then the other thing they released is Return of the Vampire in 1992 by Roadrunner. That's when the band reunited, so then Roadrunner said, well, hey, if the band's going to reunite and go on to Metal Blade Records, let's at least cash in here. But it's cool that they did for the fans' sake, because Return of the Vampire has this 5-song demo from 81, maybe 82, I'm not sure. It's called Burning the Cross. But anyway, that demo is on this Return of the Vampire album, and it's got 5 long songs, including Return of the Vampire. And I forget the other song I can't think of that was re-recorded either on Melissa or the EP. And then it's got a session they did for Ebony Records. I forget what the name of the song is. But Ebony Records, by the way, classic new wave of British heavy metal album label. So they were looking at Merciful Fate back in '82 when that whole thing was going on. But it's also got a couple of songs, maybe 3 songs. It's got a couple of songs from Danger Zone, when they were called Danger Zone with Michael Denner. And those songs are pretty good. The lyrical content is a little bit different, but those songs definitely sound like Merciful Fate minus the imagery. And then I think the last track is, I forget what that was from, but that was actually, I think it's called You Asked For It. It's actually Black Masses, but with different lyrics. But it's a really cool compilation. So even their compilations where maybe Roadrunner was just trying to cash in on some extra tracks here and there, even those types of compilations are very interesting. It's just everything Merciful Fate did was interesting. It was good. It was of high quality. Like they were able to get really good productions early in the day when everybody else was having kind of a tough time getting a good production. It seemed like Merciful Fate was able to dial in a good twin guitar tone, good drums, and obviously King Diamond is your frontman. So, well, I think that pretty much covers this episode. But I wanted to rank Merciful Fate last year, but I thought, well, what if I get around to 2021 and I can't think of another band to do kind of this ghostly thing on. So I just kept it to King Diamond the early years last year, and had to wait pretty much a full year to do this one. So there you go. But that is discussing the history of Merciful Fate and ranking the 7 excellent albums. So there you go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.